All
Oh,
right.
oh yeah.
We're
Hello.
live.
We're live. Welcome to another see industry live. I was thinking do as we do. Shout out to the nonprofit helping family
Yes.
caregivers. That's what happens when you multitask, folks.
Yep. It's all
So
right.
thank you for joining us for another Tuesday live. I'm ThatKimberly.
And I'm Carla.
And we're your hosts today. We are going to be sharing all things multifamily. That is what our goal is here, to bring as much value to our amazing audience as humanly possible. So, one, thank you for watching. And two, if you want to be a guest, we want you to be on. Just go to this link right here so you can learn more about us. There's some free downloads there, as well as sign up for a newsletter and sign up to be a guest too. So
Hey, Melissa.
the next conversation. Oh, hey, Melissa, thanks for joining us. So today we are talking about Gary Vee's a great book, his sixth book. It's called 12 and a Half. Back last month, September the 13th, episode, Deb and I discussed scenario 10. And so we got some great feedback from that. And we're going to dive into another scenario today, scenario 8 of the book,
Yes.
on page 98 whenever we start there. So just so you guys know.
It's going to be amazing. But before we get started and jump in, we want to remind everybody we are live from Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the places. So wherever you're watching, make sure you hit subscribe and or the notification button so that you can get notified whenever we go live. And again, the goal of the live is just really to provide as much value to the audience as humanly possible, because sharing is caring.
Yes, it is.
It is. And then if you've had a similar experience, I mean, jump on our comments. Let us know, what did you do to resolve a situation or handle, or if you encountered the situation, a scenario that we're going to talk about today, which I'm sure somebody out there has, because I have. Let us know. Give us a shout. Let us know how you handled it. And then if you watched this on replay, tell us where you're watching from. #replay. And if you want to and you find value in this episode, please share it with other people, because I'm sure somebody out there needs to hear it. So,
yes, absolutely. So
all right, let's
kick it off.
Yeah, let's jump in. So we said GaryVee. Here's the book.
Yes.
I absolutely love this book. I did get it as a gift. And Kim, you were the one who gifted it to me. I am going to shout you out because it was definitely very eye-opening, guys. You can find it, I'm sure, on Amazon. We were talking about it before the live, an audiobook if you're pretty busy and on the road. Definitely.
And if you don't want to buy online, he's got it in all the major Barnes and Noble and all the
If so you want the fresh paperback feel and texture, you can totally do that too. So I totally get that. So scenario number 8 is what we're going to be talking about. If you have the book, it's on page 98. And I'm going to read it. It says, the upper management at your company noticed your tenacity and potential, so they promoted you to a managerial position where you have to lead a small team. One of your new employees, George, is more than 15 years older than you. He's been working at the company longer than you have. From your initial interactions, you can tell that George doesn't have confidence in your ability as a manager and believes he's better at making decisions than you are. What would you do?
Ooh, yeah. What would you do? This is more. Okay, so let me just tee this up and we'll read the next part, about the other, we're going to tell you what happens in the book. Yeah. Right. But a lot of this happens more and more. I think when I'm the ex-gen, I do feel that back in the day, that wasn't the case, right? They didn't always promote best on
based on seniority or tenure,
not necessarily qualifications.
Right.
If somebody, so you're seeing this shift more and more, and I know it's awkward. So what did you do? What happened?
Yeah, well, so something similar happened to me. I was an assistant manager, was able to start with a brand new company. So it wasn't the company that I was with. So I was new to the company and I was new to the role. And I was gonna become a manager of a really small community. It was only like 100 something units. It was pretty small. And I was like 20 years old. I like literally knew nothing in life. I was like a fresh baby. And my team was all older than me. So maintenance supervisor, the leasing consultant, and I could feel the vibe. I could feel the vibe was different in the, in the meetings. I kind of, I was organized and I wanted to like have an agenda meeting, and that's kind of how I went into the situation, just because that's who I am. And so
you were trying to be proactive, right? Not waste their time.
I was trying to, make my mark on the team. And I can tell that, my maintenance supervisor was like, dude, you're like 12. Like, what are you doing here? Like, who are you? Like, why did they hire you?
And he never said that, did he?
No, he didn't, but he did tell me like I was really young. Like, how old are you? Like, you asked the question, like, how old are you? And it's like, you already know that person's like, feeling some type of way, right? And I just noticed that as, the days kind of went along and I'm trying to, establish like a cohesive team, I was getting pushback like along each of the ways. And I made the mistake of.
Well, how'd that pushback make you feel?
Oh, I mean, I felt like I was less than, like you really didn't have any confidence in me and respect for me as a leader, because in my mind, I at that time thought leadership was something that was just given to a person who's in a position of power, right? So I did have a wrong view of leadership, as well as that person didn't really embrace me either. So it felt like I was just not really, I wasn't given a chance to lead the team and give fresh ideas that they may not have, considered.
Yeah. Okay. That I mean, that's normal, right? I feel like
totally normal.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you've been there.
Thank you, Monica. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, especially if you've been there. They were there. They've seen several managers before me. Okay. And so they're probably are also feeling some type of way, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So I can see that now, taking a step back, I can see the dichotomy of everything that was happening. And so the mistake I made, GaryVee specifically said, like, don't do this. I did it. I was that person.
Well, but you didn't know any better, and you weren't being led, and you probably had a little bit of imposter syndrome that we all feel when we're going into something new. And instead of and you weren't being coached properly, and you weren't surrounded by a team that was open. So there's all kinds of things into that, right? So it was wrong on so many levels.
Okay. It was so wrong, and I can laugh about it now, even though back then I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? So I totally was confrontational about it. I stepped up to the person and was like, why are you, going against what I'm saying? And like, I'm the boss and I'm the manager and you got to do what I say. It was guns blazing, right? It was not empathetic. It was not kind. It was not humble whatsoever. So,
don't go in guns blazing. It gets you nowhere.
Don't do that. Don't do that ever. So, when I read this scenario, because I was reading through all the ones to pick for this session, I was like, this one's it. One.
Like a little tug on your heart. Like you got to put this out there, because I'm sure there are lots of managers out there still now that are, in their, 20s, that are young, like 20s to 30s. And kudos to you, because as a 20-year-old, they saw something in you to give you that valuable position that is managing an asset. Who cares I don't care if it's 50 or 250. So you're like, it's $1 billion asset. Like, let's be real with everything that goes into it. So, they saw something in you, and that's happening more and more. So,
and I think
congrats to you, but and good for you for admitting that you're like, I didn't handle this right. This is how I could have or should have. What what would you do? What have you done differently since then?
Oh my God, that experience completely revolutionized the way that I think of leadership, and that I think of, um, you know, what's expected from somebody who has a position of authority. Like authority isn't something that's just given to you through a title, right? It's something that you have to earn. Like, and it's not even authority, it's
Respect.
really right. Right. And people automatically assume, well, this person has a manager title behind their name, they deserve the respect. And it's like, no, respect is earned 100% of the time.
But no matter your title, everybody deserves respect, right? Like
everybody
it doesn't matter. Like if you're
a basic level of respect.
Correct. Absolutely. You know, so you realize that it is definitely earned, and you were not earning it when you were going in guns a-blazing, right?
That was definitely not the right approach. And I think I thought that because, again, like what you were saying, you know, my previous boss, I was a manager, was very like, do what I say. This is the direction we're going in. Didn't really take into account what other people's perspectives were, what other people's ideas were,
or experience too.
Right. And he had tons of experience. The manager that I had come from, tons of experience in multifamily, but didn't have that piece of emotional intelligence that really is key. And I think back then, I mean, I've been in the industry for 16, 17 years now. It's totally different. You know, your approach is totally different. And I learned that the hard way, but I appreciate now that I can have the experience to say, here's what not to do.
Yeah.
And here's, you know, what I've done differently, like moving forward.
Yeah. So you want to read what the underneath what he gives his recommendation?
Yes. So yeah, I mean, obviously we all know when you get a promotion, what do? You celebrate, right? You celebrate with your friends, with your family. And, you know, if you're going into this new position, he said, if I were in this new managerial position, the first person I would think about is George. It must be so tough for him to watch newer employees get promoted. How's he feeling? What are his ambitions? How can I get him on my side? And I think for me, what stood out the most was, how is he feeling? Right? That's the empathy part of it.
Yeah.
What are his ambitions? That's kindness. And how can I get him on my side? Which is humility for me, because that means
you don't know everything, right?
Exactly. Exactly. So to me, those questions are so important, because what you're thinking about when you get a promotion is, how can I change things? How can I make things better? How can I,
me. Yeah.
Right. It's very self-serving and, you know, selfish.
Yeah.
You don't think about other people.
And leaders and people don't follow leaders like that. People don't follow and take and don't. A friend of mine a long time ago said, you know, that people don't, and it's been said, people don't quit companies, they quit leadership, they quit bosses, right? People, because they're not being appreciated or felt, and, you know, or anything, like they're getting no feedback. They're not, nothing is happening to help that employee grow, and they don't see a future when their leader is selfish and you know, and it's a dictatorship. Hey, Sochi, hope you're having fun.
Yes,
out there.
Thanks for joining.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Deb and Sochi. Will be back next, in 2 weeks. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're good. I think, you know, you just brought up a really good point, and I think sometimes you have people in teams who are ready to be promoted, but they haven't been afforded the opportunity just because they aren't placed at the forefront of scenarios. And so maybe this is the case with George, right? Let's say I'm the person, right, that got promoted. Maybe I'm a little bit more outspoken, or maybe, you know, I put myself in front of an audience more than George does because he's a little bit more reserved. But that doesn't necessarily mean that George is lacking the skills to be a manager or to be promoted. And my takeaway also from this is, my job is to understand what George's strengths are and how I can help him understand if his ambition is to become a manager or to be promoted. How do I get George there? Like, how do I encourage him, to do that? And that's one thing that you can't do if what you're looking at is yourself as a solution to the entire, situation when you're a manager. Like you can't do that.
Yeah, it takes a team. And this is a corny, quote, but there's no I in team. But that's
absolutely true.
Absolutely true. Yeah. And you definitely get more done with collaboration.
Yep.
I've seen, I think playing, team sports was very helpful in that whole, there's no I in team. And you really, if you played, team sports, it is definitely something that you realize it takes a team to move, the scoreboard, no matter what you play. And even when it comes to, golf, my dad was a huge golfer, that's integrity and ethics. And it's that teaches you respect, as well for others and the game. Yep. So, but point being is if you don't look at those who surround and bring them up with you as you come up, right? It's one, it does not fill your heart and your soul. For, I'll just speak for me. Like what good is it if I elevate myself and I don't bring people with me to enjoy the ride, the fruits of the labor, whatever it is. Like, and there's enough out there. That's really why I enjoy listening and why I'm such a GaryVee fan, is because he gives, like business advice to others all the time. And he gives his time. He does so much to teach others what he has learned and what he knows, because he believes in abundance. It's not taking away from him or his company or anything else if he gives all this information away for free, right? Exactly. Like it is definitely something, and he's lived it. He's an entrepreneur. He's 100% a true bred entrepreneur. So I always encourage people to go back and, read some of his other books, as well as like dive into find, LinkedIn is his, business channel, if you will, that he doesn't curse as much, but he's definitely got some great advice, and he's on all platforms. So
what I think it's being down to earth, like, he's
not forgetting where you come from.
Right. And he's very much like that. Like in his book, it's a natural, like it's almost like a conversation he's having, like with you, to give you like, hey, this is what has worked for me. This is what you should be looking at. Like, it's very much an easy read because it's very genuine. It feels genuine. Like,
yeah, for sure.
He's
and he is just that in person. You want to read the part where he talks about his, let's see.
I would be able to lead George. Yes. So this is the part where I was like, oh man, this is me. I would be able to lead George easily because I'd employ empathy, kindness, and humility. That's clearly not me.
So well, you didn't know what you didn't know, me. Right? Like, no, it is you now. It is absolutely you now.
He said, I wouldn't try to prove to him, my boss, or my other team members that he's wrong for doubting me. That's what a lot of people do in this situation. Hashtag that was Carla 15 years ago.
Guns a-blazing.
Their insecurities surface in the face of doubt, and they become confrontational with George instead of deploying these ingredients, which are empathy, kindness and humility.
Yeah. Either through formal or informal communication, I would let George know that I'm on his side. The best way to communicate depends on your style. You might be the kind of person to sit down with him over a 2-hour breakfast to build rapport. That would be me.
Yeah.
For me, it would be through warmth of my actions. In my first team meeting as a manager, I would say, George is right, guys. Let's not forget, he's been here a long time and his experience matters on this team. I wouldn't be here today without observing some of the subtle things George did. I'm going to lean on him in many areas of my experience, of his expertise.
Of his experience, yeah. And that's kind of where I have, like, that's the shift that I've made. I'm more not sitting down one-on-one, but like, I mean, obviously you do that because you have to when you're in a position of leadership, but it's publicly acknowledging the person's strengths, so that they feel, that you're confident in their abilities, that their opinions are valuable, that their experience is valuable. And you give them a certain level of authority when you do that.
Autonomy to make the decisions up to a certain level that, it might be, contract, amount, it might be, you got to give them their parameters to be able to, succeed and thrive.
Yeah,
for sure. So I'm going to pick on because I'm going to pick on me and my next generation. I can absolutely say at one point in my career that I was definitely like, I too would be like, how old are you? Like, or feel like, because, I had to earn my keep, I had to earn my way up. Even though I always had a softer heart for startups. So I was always willing to help a fellow startup back in the day. I still am. Like, my heart just bleeds, when somebody tells me they're a startup. But I definitely was at, for a short period of my career where I was like, well, I had to do this. They need to do that too. Right. Not always does that apply. I'm telling you, Gen Xers and boomers, more of the Xers, but let me just tell you, you can't do that with your, the millennials and the Gen Zs. They ain't going to put up with it. Like, it just ain't happening. And because they were raised with technology, like, they have no, like, the amount of things that they are like so more advanced.
There's not a lot of limitations on what they can do and what they know. Yeah, there's just
100%. So we need to lean on them and be comfortable knowing that if you don't know, you don't know. It's okay, right? Like, and they can get it done. Like, you gotta give some grace, and you have to trust that, it is those people that you hired, because, GaryVee's got a whole section on hiring, hire fast, and fire faster, I believe.
Oh my God, that is so incredibly true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guilty for holding on to employees too long, because I just wanted to give them 110 chances, right? But GaryVee talks about it's your ego, and it was like, I didn't want to be proven wrong that we hired the wrong person, right? Yeah. Or money wasted, that, so a lot of that goes into ego and other things. But you got to hire fast and fire quicker, faster. He's got a whole quote for it, but it was something that I struggled with, and we can absolutely talk about the hiring on our next, but showing empathy for someone at an organization. I feel that this is super relevant for the apartment industry, because not every manager, assistant manager, not every person in our industry has been given the opportunity to grow as a leader or in their position to advance, right? One, they didn't know any better. Two, it's just the chapter of life. They didn't have time, or the company, they've been with the same company. There was someone that I happened to be introduced to last week at an industry event, and this person had been with this company for 22 years. And some of the things that this person was saying was you could tell that she's been where she's been as long as she has, and she's a manager. But because she has not gone and gotten any professional growth or done any professional growth for herself, she might be staying there, right? If she doesn't change something, and she wants to grow. She was wanting to get more involved in the state level and, asking me questions. But, how do you tell somebody you just met, like, lady, you can't say those things, right? Like, you can't, like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I think it goes back to accountability, which is another one of the traits,
and awareness, being self-aware, right?
Yeah, it's definitely all encompassing. And I think going back to what you were saying about just the differences in the generations, and I think empathy is such a emotional word that we tend to think that it shouldn't be in the business setting.
Correct. But but GaryVee is trying to change that to lead with kindness. And he takes on all the responsibility that if his employees mess up, it's his fault. That means, you know, he didn't guide them. He didn't give them the tools, the resources they needed, all of it. Like he, you know, he takes full responsibility. But leading with that kindness and empathy is something that's what he's, you know, that's one of his many missions to show people that you can be. I mean, he's a billionaire, right? Like he's got Facebook stock, he's got Twitter, he invested in Tumblr, like he sold his empathy brand in less than 3 years, maybe, to Constellation for $100 million.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
It is. Like the man knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so he's doing something right.
He's doing something right. And his employee base is, you know, huge now. So like I just implore people to, like, if it's not him, find someone else that leads that same way, in the way that you want to be, you know, as well. And or just go take some, you know, professional, you know, EQ, IQ, you know, Carla and I both are, you know, shout out to Dusty.
Yes.
You know, leadership courses, EQ, IQ is amazing. And it helps you with those to be able to, because we've all gone through those scenarios, right? Like reading the book just kind of brought that memory back, right? Like, oh shoot, I did that.
And it's a personal thing. Like you have to take responsibility to make sure that you're leading in that manner, because as somebody who's a millennial, I want to be led in that way. So I naturally have to do that. I can't say this is the way that I like to be led and then do something totally opposite, you know, all of that.
Yeah. And that's a great point. You hit the nail on the head, right? Where you're like, this is what I seek, and this is because this is what I want to be. So that's the way it's going to work for me, right? Like, and I think when leadership sits down and really kind of gets to know, you know, their people, then, and what their people's aspirations and goals are and what's important to them, because some people it's money, some people it's titles, some people
very different for
everybody. It's different. Time, family, like let's go down the list, and not being, you know, not judging them, or, you know, like I had to have my business partner, co-founder tell me, Kimberly, it's okay if they don't want to work 100 hours a week like we do. And I was like, what? What?
What do you mean?
What you talking about, Willis? What? So, you know, because it's, you know, like, you know, and when I stepped back, she was like, we left corporate and we started this startup because we didn't want to be like corporate. I was like, okay, you're right. Thank you. You know, like
sometimes you need, you know, again, accountability, right?
Someone and being okay with someone holding you accountable for those things that you, when you start off on your mission or your career, that, you know, and that's where not forgetting where you came from comes into play.
Oh yeah.
At all. Like, you know, when you know, Industry Live is a national YouTube network thing, Carla, you know, and
we're gonna remember.
We're gonna remember.
For sure.
And you can all call us out on it. Because we're gonna call each other out, right?
Like, remember that time that you said? I'm down with that. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Remember when you used to get upset at yourself because technology go blip? You can't be upset at your technician because they got no control, Kimberly. Like, you're right. Okay. So definitely surround yourself with those people who hold you accountable, who keep you grounded, and lift up others with that humility, that kindness. That's the way you lead. That's why people follow you, right? That's why people will,
I love this. So Zumper constantly asks us questions. What should they improve? What do they need to grow? How leadership is performing? That's amazing.
Shout out to Zumper. Yes.
Yeah, that's everything.
It's absolutely needed in all aspects of any organization. Doesn't matter if you're small or you're large. You know, I do feel startups do a better job of that, and corporate is, you know, they're trying to get there. Middle management definitely I'm seeing the movement. But if you don't want the great never apply, you know, like GaryVee talks about the great resignation, but he's also telling people there's going to be a time when there's a great, nobody's going to apply for these jobs because the millennials and the Gen Zs know they can make other sort of money online, and they have options.
Exactly.
Right? Like I implore you folks, like start listening, reading these books, doing things to change your organization, because there's going to come a time when nobody's going to apply for your position.
Right.
Right? I mean, we're hitting that 30-minute hour, so we're trying to be mindful, you all, but that's going to be our next topic.
We really should talk about that, because I feel like especially in this industry, things are, and technology in multifamily is changing multifamily in the way we do business, and is definitely going to require a mind shift. So I think we should definitely add that to our list of topics to talk about.
Okay, we will. But for next time, make sure that I'm going to throw this up. Make sure that here's some resources. I should link GaryVee's book in there too, but it is in our description. But if you want to be a guest, you want to learn more about the live and being on it, you can email us there. There's resources and our newsletter as well. And if you missed any of the episode, you can hashtag any of these hashtags. So you can watch us. And if you watch us on the replay, tell us where you watched it from. Use hashtag industry live or hashtag replay. And next week, we will be at OpTech. And the ladies are also traveling, so we will not be on next week. But the following week, September the 8th. No, it's not September.
Yes, the 8th.
November.
It's November the 8th. I'm sorry. I thought about September too. I didn't even think about
I was looking at something on my notes, but November 8th, Stephanie, because I never say her, Oler. She's used to it. Shout out Stephanie. Will be on with us talking about all the things she did wrong when asking for a raise. So I'm pretty excited about that conversation, because Lord knows we all need to be talking about the monies for sure. So until 2 weeks from now, thank you guys so much. Remember, sharing is caring, and hashtag mean people suck. Have a great week. Have a great week, Carla.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.